Alright, what's up guys? You want to talk about some universal models with me? So this is going to be about the shape of the Earth and the flat Earth, globe Earth, whatever. So initially, right, we start off with Ptolemy's geocentric model, the flat Earth model, and that was in use until the Renaissance, and it was very accurate in terms of predicting the positions of planets, where the planets are, and the times of eclipses and seasons and all that. What it couldn't account for were things like why planets were different colors at different times. So when people say, oh, stupid flat earther, da-da-da-da-da-da, they have no idea what this is actually about. It's not about the size of the Earth. So the reason for discarding the geocentric model was not really because it lacked precision, because it didn't, but it failed to explain various other observational facts, especially after the development of telescopes. No doubt, you could tune and tweak the flat Earth model, and you could find the answers to these questions. But this concept of Tycho's positional measurements, it revealed a lot of inconsistencies or errors, you could say, with the flat Earth model, which resulted in the geocentric model becoming obsolete. Okay, so let's make two notes here. First, there's something called Kepler's law, okay, and it's the law of planetary motion, published by Johannes Kepler, and it describes the orbit of planets around the sun. The laws modified the heliocentric idea of Copernicus, and it replaced the circular orbits with epicycles of elliptical trajectories. Okay, that the orbit wasn't a circle anymore; it was an oval, and it explained how planetary velocities varied. Second thing we want to note here: the statement rendered the geocentric model obsolete. So, obsolete doesn't mean it's broken or it doesn't work. Obsolete means there's a better way to do it now. So, the shape of the Earth is the least important thing in the universal model. It is not about the shape of the Earth. It's not about the shape of the Earth. It's about measuring the sky. And the reason for that is because when these people were modeling the Earth, they were looking up into the sky, and they thought that they were literally looking into heaven. So that's that. They thought that everything in heaven had to be perfect because it's heaven. And to some degree, that's probably true. But the shape of the Earth itself, it doesn't matter. What matters is being able to use the heavenly bodies, the planets and the stars, to predict events like eclipses and transitions between ages and all that shit. So in short here, the flat Earth versus globe Earth, that's pointless because it isn't even about the Earth. It's about everything else. So please, don't go saying, oh, you flat earthers are retarded. Oh, you globies and you're under mind control. Because it's not about that. It's about being able to make accurate predictions and get information about the sky, not the Earth. So, you can find a few, there's not a lot, but there's a few very well written articles. Like Eric Dubay will give you some really good flat Earth articles about this subject. The geocentric model will never be killed off because observationally, because if you look around, you can see that it's flat, and anyone at any point geographically at any location on Earth they can look around and see that it's flat. If it's flat to me here, and it's flat to Big Sib in Louisiana, and it's flat to John 8 in Australia, and it's flat to my next door neighbor, and it's flat to the guy halfway around the world, it's flat to everyone, observationally, it won't die. So, none other than Galileo himself and myself pointed out that there is no right or wrong answer to this. That's what I'm pointing out now. I added that it's not even worth discussing. If you're having a flat earth versus globe earth debate, you are literally wasting your time and you're misunderstanding the entire thing. Because you could take any arbitrary point you want in the universe, anywhere, start on Mars, and you can calculate the movements of the sun and the moon and the planets and the stars and so on. Point to figure out orbits, seasons, age transitions, all of those things. It would work anywhere. If you use the heliocentric model, you may accurately track majority of those orbits and seasons. If you use the geocentric model, same thing. The heliocentric model will allow you to draw some conclusions that the opposite will not. They each have their points. So, it is true that the movements of most objects are pretty simple relative to the center of mass of the solar system. Orbits. It's also true that the sun is close enough to the center of mass that treating it as the center of mass works out close enough for most purposes, okay? So you can create a heliocentric model that in the center is empty space, and just a little next to that is the sun. It can be a nothing-centric model, and you can still get the answers from it. It's not about the Earth. The goal is to keep it simple. Okay. It's about keeping the movements relatively simple. So again, there is ultimately no right or wrong answer involved. The flat Earth model is not the truth. The globe Earth is not the truth. It's just not. And this is because we exist in a world where there is neither true nor false. There is nothing that is true. It might be true now from your perspective, but if you were to add in some variables, it would no longer remain true. Some things are true now, and in 20 minutes they won't be. And also, there's nothing that's absolutely false all the time. If you add in some variables, it could no longer be false. In fact, the entire existence of this world itself is neither true nor false, not just the concepts and ideas within it. The world itself. And this is something I'm going to touch on when I talk about parallax here in a second. So, think for a second. The Milky Way galaxy, right? The picture we're given is of a spiral with arms, like a ninja star. You could use that, right? And say that's the shape of the Earth. And you could still predict seasons, the rotation of the planets, the path of the sun, all of that. The same things that you could predict on a sphere. And possibly, using that model, you could solve questions that were laid down ages ago that we're not able to solve with the flat Earth or the sphere Earth. Excuse me. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, because you can get some information from the flat Earth model, and there are questions that it doesn't answer, like why planets are different colors at different times, and they're brighter and darker. The flat Earth model can't tell you that. And then there are questions that the globe model can't answer, like how come the stars are the same every single night, night after night? The star trails remain the same. They'll give you an excuse, and that's the parallax, but that's just religious scientific bullshit. That's from the religion of science. That's not real science. So, if you came up with a different model that answered these questions at the same time, you would probably have a better model than both the flat Earth and the globe Earth. The point is, the flat Earth came first, and then there were questions that couldn't be explained with the flat Earth, so they created a new model that answered these new questions. The globe model took the simplicity from the flat Earth model, and it threw it away, and it's a more complex model, and thus it gives us a little more of the answers that we seek. So, the flat Earth model calculated the movements of planets, wandering stars if you prefer that, and it helped people to sail the seas and helped with seasons and planting crops, okay, as a general idea. That's the sky clock. That will never go away. If in 10,000 years, there will still be that concept. So, when the seas were fully charted and we had a Gregorian calendar that fit well enough to the sun going all the way around, or the earth going all the way around the sun, whichever you prefer, neither are right, and also neither are wrong. You can observe and you can see both of them happening, but chances are neither one of them are correct. So, once the seas were charted, once the calendar was fit in, the flat Earth model no longer had a purpose. You don't need it anymore. It just becomes a novelty. It's just something neat that we used to use, like an old calculator that only does addition and subtraction. You throw that shit away and you get a new one, the TI Texas Instrument that does long division and percentages and fractions. That's what we're talking about here. That's exactly what we're talking about here. So, the info as far as the calendar and the sea charts is a more efficient way of getting the information that we need, and so we don't need to look at the sky clock anymore. And once a model is produced that answers the questions that the globe doesn't answer, that model too will become obsolete. There will never be one definitive model, because as I said, we live in a world that is neither true nor false. It is true and false. It's neither. So, and when that happens, when that new model is created and the globe Earth, oh, you globe Earthers, ah ha ha, you know, the same way people cling to the flat Earth now, and they say, oh, the Earth is flat, da 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 da. It's likely that there will be a group of people that do that same thing with the globe Earth and say, oh, the new Earth model is a psyop. It's Satan's trick, all that shit. So, let's press on. I'm sorry. There was more than one heliocentric model. Copernicus modeled universal models where oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. So, there is more than one heliocentric model. Copernicus modeled orbits with circles, and Tycho found that the Copernican model worked better for calculating solar eclipses and the movements of the bigger, greater planets, which correlate and are synced to the greater light, while Ptolemy's model, the flat Earth model, worked better with lunar eclipses and the smaller planets, which are synced to the smaller, lesser light to rule the night. As is the calendar. It's a lunar calendar, I'm pretty sure. So, another thing we should consider about the flat Earth, it is not about being a flat plane with ice at the edges or edge you can fall off. It's more about looking down a pipe. Go look down a straw, okay? You'll see a little circle that extends down. That's what the model is about. It's not about edges. It is, and also it's the negative image of the torus field. The torus field is a donut, right? You look down the center of it, it's a vortex with the fulcrum I believe that's the word. But yeah, all celestial objects, this is how the flat earth model is created, as in looking down a pipe. All of the universe is within that pipe and moves within that pipe. And again, this is a model. That may not even be the case. It's just a way of understanding. One of the main uses of models that came after the flat earth model, like models that have stars orbiting the earth while the planets orbit the sun, which is just fascinating to me. The goal was to produce an ephemeris, right? And that is that looking down the tube model. The goal was to create a model that was like looking down the tube. And the key to that was for the positions of stars, planets, and navigation at sea, and calendars, and all the same stuff. It's about looking down that tube, right? And that's why even when the heliocentric model was popular and taught in school, it was taught as a stationary sun in the center and then planets moving around it. And what do we have now? Now we have the Earth chasing behind the sun at 540,000 miles per hour while it rotates around the sun. It spins itself, and it's also got a wobble to it, right? And while it's doing all that, these science religion people, they also want to believe that aliens can catch that shit and land on it. That's where we're at. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. So, as mentioned above, by 1627, the standard method of producing ephemerides, those models of the tube, the best way to make those was the Rudolphine tables of Johannes Kepler. And I recommend go Google it, DuckDuckGo it right now. Rudolphine tables. Tell me what you see. And if you do that, don't look at it as that's the physical reality. Look at it as a tool. It's a tool to find answers about everything other than the Earth. So, the first, I messed that up too, I'm sorry. Look at it as a tool to find answers. The reason you don't take it as absolute truth is because the first Keplerian telescope was built by a Jesuit priest, and we know what them Jesuits are about, Christopher Sheen, sometime between 1613 and 1617. Jesuits were often highly trained in languages and the sciences, and were expected to use those things, especially in the realm of astronomy, to win over rulers and elites around the world and convince them, by extension, that the Catholic Church was superior. Now, wasn't there a famous, was it Plato? No, I'm sorry, it was Galileo. He went and did astronomy for kings and shit. So, there you go. That's what Jesuits were expected to do. Alright, win over rulers, Alright. So these tables, the Rudolphine tables, were based on Kepler's 3 laws. And using those laws, if you take the model and fit it to those laws, sorry, I lost my spot. Okay, they fit better than the geocentric model. After that point, once these Rudolphine tables came around and the 3 laws, the Ptolemaic model fell into oblivion because the simplicity of the Kepler model. It was still simple enough to create the predictions, and you got even more from it than you did the geocentric. And again, this is the goal of the model, to keep it simple, looking down a straw. You're looking at a flat disc. And that's so that things are easier to understand, predict, when trying to explain celestial events. Alright, I'm back again. Sorry about that. So, I'm watching my kids here. My wife's handling business and shit, so that's why I'm in her office. Don't tell her. Regardless, both geocentric and heliocentric models can measure movements of all bodies in the sky, can predict all eclipses, seasons, transition between ages of the zodiac. They both work. Okay, so there's no point in arguing globe and flat because they both do the job. You can just get more information from the heliocentric model than you can the geocentric model. You could take a heliocentric model and just switch the Earth and the Sun, and you can still get shit from it. So people have become enraged by personal preference, which is something that's becoming more and more clear every day. But they get enraged about flat Earth, globe Earth, without having any actual perception of the real situation. When we talk about flat Earth and globe Earth, we are not talking about the Earth. We're talking about the information that we can get from that model about the heavens, about celestial bodies, not about the physical Earth shape, because the Earth is not a physical thing. I'll get to that. So, Earth models are not about the shape of the Earth. They are about everything else around the Earth. Okay? So, as I was saying about the parallax, right? This is the stupidest idea ever. So, when they presented the heliocentric model, the Ptolemy said, okay, well, how come the stars are the same every night? Which this is not really what happened. This is a general summary of how things went. They said, oh, it's because these stars are so big and so far away. Bullshit. And so when they say parallax is the reason that the stars stay the same, that's totally false, because you can only measure parallax with close stars, first of all. Secondly, parallax is using two objects in the sky, okay, and they pass either in front of or behind one another, and using that you can determine how far they are away, which it's like knowing the one side of a triangle and getting the other two. Okay, it's like this, right? You take your thumb and you put it over something that's kind of far away, and you keep one eye closed, and then you close the other eye and put the other thumb over it, okay? And then you open your eyes, and since you know the distance between your two eyes, that's the one side of the triangle you have. And now you have to measure the distance that object is away. No, thank you. So, parallax is bullshit. So, my closing notes here. This place we live here, right? You and I share this place, this earth, this green earth that is good. It is not a physical object. It's not. It's not something that you can go and take a ruler and lay it down on the ground and then go forever one way, and eventually you'll come back to the other end of the ruler and you can say, oh, it's 77 feet. It's not going to happen. If you do that, the earth is the immeasurable measurer. You cannot measure it. It exists only to measure you. Okay? And that's why no matter what you measure anywhere in existence, you will only find yourself. Because as within, so without. The outside is just a reflection of the inside. My camera is over here. That's why I keep looking that way. Reality, existence, all these big, grand ideas. There's nothing bigger than these ideas. Those things are the measure of man. Man is the star. So, as above, so below, right? I'm sure you know that Earth is the measure of a man. Okay? Whatever is within you, that's what you see in the world. Okay? So, if the heavens and the earth are images of one another, and the earth is the measure of a man, and the heavens is an image of that, then to some extent it's also a measure of man. Man is the key. So, therefore, to some degree, the sky must also be a measure of man. It has to be. Has to be. The earth is the heart, okay? And what you house within your heart is what you will find in the earth. If you house corruption, you will see corrupt, flawed men and a corrupt, flawed system. If you strive for perfection, that's how the world will appear to you. If you are pure, all things will be pure. It's that simple. It's about you. This is how men can have their own unique perspective. You and I are not one body perceiving things the exact same way. We can look at the exact same thing and we can see different things. This is why within us, within our hearts, is what's different. So, let's say you and a normie, okay? Just a normie. A fully vaxy-daxied up normie. You can sit down with them and you can watch a Disney movie, okay? Pinocchio, Lion King, whichever one you want to pick. And because you see, or what the way I see it, I see the world as there are men who are perfected. They do not sin. They do not have immoral thoughts or habits. Those men are reaching down to fallen men. That's what I see. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me start this example over. So let's say me and a normie sit down. Okay, we watch the same Disney movie, and because I see the world as perfected men reaching down to fallen men, the fallen men smack their hand away and spit on them, of course. But perfected men reaching down to fallen men, I, while battling the evil within myself, will see the message of taking control of yourself and becoming a perfect being in Christ. That's what I'll see in that Disney movie. While the normie, who continuously surrenders to evil desires and habits and is probably totally unaware of these concepts I'm even speaking on, will be thoughtless and think it's a pointless movie. They're just seeking entertainment, and so they will be entertained. The earth cannot be measured. You can't measure it. If you try to measure it, you will only find what your heart wants to find, yourself, every single time, because we know that the physical world is just a shadow, an image of the spiritual world. This world here, earth, is an illusion, Maya. I would love to talk about how the ancient culture, because I'm sure this is coincidence, the Maya magically disappeared. And they left a clock for 2012. Woo! Booga booga boo. So funny. Disappeared. Because that is exactly what the illusion of this world does. It disappears. What remains when this world, this illusion, disappears is the truth. And what remains when all the illusion's gone, what is there will always be there. Do not love the illusion. Love what is real. And I love you all. Peace out. My little baby's going crazy.